All right, time for an update. It's been a couple weeks since my last update. I had a very rare opportunity to go on a full 2 week vacation with my wife, and we had a really great time. So if you want to hear about my time in Scandinavia, stick around till the end. But I want to get through the business first. So a few weeks ago, I shipped out beta copies to several beta testers. Some of those copies actually made it to their destination, some didn't. But I fully understand. I have serious mail issues in my neighborhood, and it doesn't surprise me that others do too. But all the beta testers, whether they received a hard copy or not, were able to give me an enormous amount of insanely helpful feedback. Even the beta testers that never got their hard copy of the game were really busy in the shared Google Docs, providing extra sets of eyes on all the notes that were coming in and offering their feedback on the feedback. And to be honest with you, that was just as helpful to me as playing a hard copy of the game. So I really appreciate all the beta testers. I think that I've got a really solid change list moving forward. And I think I know exactly what I need to do to make this game really stable and really fun for final release. So what's next for Low? So first of all, how long is it going to take to implement all these changes? This is huge. Like the next month is going to be insane, and it touches almost every single component, every single asset. And then the question is, do I print out a second wave of beta copies and mail them out and hope that people get them? Obviously, the game is going to have to be play tested after all these changes are implemented, but I'm not sure about the feasibility of shipping out more hard copies. So I'm going to have to think on that for a minute. I want to say that this is going to take 2 weeks, but if I'm being realistic, it's going to be more like 3 or 4 weeks. I'm always optimistic because there's no reason not to be. I'm going to say first half of August. I wish I could just push this game out, but the truth is, if I'd pushed it out without the beta testing, then this 12 pages of changes would never have happened, and the game would have been sort of unplayable and unlearnable, and it would have been a total failure. I'm fully committed to making this game the best game it can be. Half the people I know are telling me that I should just ship it. The other half of the people I know are saying that I should slow down and take as long as it takes. And the truth is, I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I want to get it right. I need to get it right. But at the same time, like, I can't work on version 1.0 of this game for the next year. Like, I really have to ship the game this summer. I don't have another year of this in me. I'm still very excited about developing this game, and I'm very excited about the expansions. So it's not that I want to stop working on the game, it's that I just want to get the engine built and working and out the door so that I can iterate and release expansions and then eventually release a deluxe version or a second edition. But I do think it's important just to get things done at some point because it's never going to be perfect. So my goal really is to get version 1 out the door this summer, and it's going to be flawed, but I think that's better than spending another year trying to make this game perfect because I don't think it's ever going to be perfect. I have a lot of people all over the world asking me, if the game's going to be available where they live, and I wish the game could be available globally. It kind of makes me sad to know that like I don't really have the means to ship this game globally. If a stateside release goes well, then I'll do everything I can to try to figure out how to broaden the scope and the scale of the game and make it available globally. I've even had some people ask me like if I can just ship copies directly to Europe. But the truth is, I'm already having problems with that. A couple of my beta testers live outside of the US, and I've shipped copies of the game to them. It's complicated, it's tricky, it's slow, it's expensive. I can't imagine trying to do fulfillment on my own in a world in which like maybe 60 to 75% of the games are actually going to reach their destination. And then I'm basically spending all of my time trying to figure out like fulfillment issues. I do want to make this game available globally. I just, as a one-man studio, I don't really know how to do that yet. So that is something that I will try to figure out, but it's probably not going to happen right away. But after version 1.0, I am going to release a print and play version, and that will happen in August. That'll happen within a week of release, and anybody that lives overseas that wants to build this game themselves can do so for a nominal cost, or maybe no cost. I haven't decided. But then what? So this game originally had a lot more content, and I had to prune it down in order to try to finish it, but I've got a lot of extra content that I am very eager to publish for this game. And so expansions are next. And this isn't pie in the sky. Like, this is actually going to happen. And there are 2 expansions. There's the Wilderness expansion, City expansion. We'll just call it City of Thieves in honor of the Fighting Fantasy book, because that's kind of what it is. It's like a city filled with dark alleys and bandits and mob bosses and stuff like that. Sewer systems. So these are the 2 expansions that are planned for the game. The Wilderness expansion will include forest, swamps, and caves. I've already got 20 new monster cards for the Wilderness expansion. The City expansion will have another 20 monster cards. After the core set is released, the Wilderness expansion is released, and the City expansion is released, this game will be done. It will have everything that I envisioned it having. And then what? I would love to just write content. I would love to just write some more scenarios using all the assets from the core set and the 2 expansions. I think this is one area where a lot of games drop the ball. At some point, I don't think you need more map tiles. I don't think you need more monsters. And then wish list. I would love to do like a standee add-on. This was a suggestion from one of the beta testers, and I think it's an excellent idea. Originally, this game was a standee-based game. At some point, I switched it to just flat-lying counters to try to keep it simple, but I think I have a solution for standees, which will make me happy. It'll require a little bit of glue, but I think my standees will be exactly what I always envisioned them to be, which is a little smaller, a little more compact. And then lastly, minis. I love to do 3D modeling. I love to do 3D printing, and I would love to take a crack at delivering a set of STL files so that people can print their own minis for this game. I have some rules modifications because you can't stack standees and you can't stack minis. But I think I've come up with a solution, a very simple modification to the rules that will make it possible to play this game with standees and minis. So this is wish list, but it is something that I seriously want to do. And I want everything on this page to fit inside the core box. Like, that's the most important thing. So I will continue to give updates on the progress with the change list for final release. With any luck, this stuff will be done sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Another round of beta testing will occur, and we hopefully can ship this game sometime in early August. So stay tuned. All right, Scandinavia. The first thing I want to say is that Copenhagen, Stockholm, and Oslo have the best game shops I've ever seen. I'm talking board games, I'm talking entire walls of dungeon crawls. All these shops have entire racks of all these RPGs that I've always wanted to try out or at least browse through. I really leaned into the Stockholm Cartel while I was in Stockholm because it just seemed like the thing to do. So I finally picked up a copy of Morkborg. I read the whole thing on a plane. I think everything that can be said about Morkborg has been said. I mean, the design of this rule book is completely gonzo, almost off-putting, but I think it's highly successful as a work of art. A little more frustrating in terms of conveying information, but all in all, I liked Morkborg. I'm glad I bought it, and it'll be a nice addition to my bookshelf. I also bought a couple of supplements from Morkborg. I guess technically it's pronounced Merkborg, but I don't know. I hear a lot of people call it Morkborg. But really glad that I picked this up. I've been sort of looking at it for a very long time. I picked this up totally randomly. Death in Space. Really, really enjoyed this book. I think this is a beautiful book and a great work of art, and there is some amazing black and white art in this book. Huge fan of the look and feel of this book. I read this whole thing on an airplane too. I think I've realized that I'm not sure I really enjoy playing space RPGs. There's just something a little less like tactile about role playing in expansive universes. I think when it comes to role playing, I really just like boots on the ground, wallowing in the mud, fighting demons kind of gameplay. I think I really enjoy this type of theme in film and television and comics, but I think in terms of role-playing games, I really prefer fantasy over sci-fi. But as an artifact, I think this book is great, and it's very inspirational, and it's given me a lot of ideas. And then I also picked up a bunch of supplements for Mothership. They just happen to have all these on their racks. I've never seen any of this stuff in person before. I've been watching Ben Milton's reviews of all this stuff for years, but I've just never been in a game shop before where all this stuff is just sitting on the shelf. And that is super cool. That's what I liked most about all the game shops that I went to in Scandinavia. They all had racks with all this stuff on it, and you could browse through it. Unfortunately, they were sold out of the core rules for Mothership, but they had all these supplements, so I snagged them. And I just love that there's like a thriving gaming culture in Scandinavia. I also spent a lot of time driving around the fjords in Norway, and we did some really amazing hikes up in the Jotunheimen National Park, several hours north of Oslo in Norway. We also tracked down the tiny little village where my wife's great grandparents lived before they migrated to the States. And that was super cool, finding that little village and talking to some locals who've spent their entire lives there, and just sort of putting some of the pieces together about my wife's ancestry on her mom's side of the family. So all in all, it was a really stellar trip. I'm always a little apprehensive about diving into new real adventures, but once I'm in motion, once the inertia kicks in, I always love it, and I always come back feeling totally rejuvenated and excited about life and the adventure of living. So yeah, real world adventure is really important for fueling the creative process and keeping the creative spirit alive. And I think that's just something that I need to remember moving forward. Anyway, stay tuned. I'm very excited to dive back into Low and finish this change list and ship this game.